5 is about Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Board of Commissioners meeting, May 5th, 2025. First, we will have Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Harrison.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Motion passes. School recognition. Eastwick High School. Ms. King. Recognition, Ms. Kai King. How can we say enough good things about her? She's a student that every teacher wants to have. She's intelligent, vibrant, compassionate, gracious, welcoming, outgoing, and embodies every admirable quality one could hope for. She is spirited, enthusiastic, hardworking, committed, cheerful, and endlessly inspiring. That's a lot. She's a young woman that strives to not only do well for herself, but also everyone around her. She is a student that goes out of her way to help everyone. She's a strong advocate for herself and peers. She is also a student that will do whatever is needed for whatever it is at her own expense. Kai is always likes to give and give. She's a natural born leader, but at the same time can and will be the team player if that is what is needed. She's happy to help with any project or assignment or task you throw at her. Not only is she willing to help with all things, but she also excludes a contagious happiness that many appreciate. Whether it is a good morning, a simple hello, she makes everyone's day that much better. Despite her small stature, she is naturally a born leader. She's involved with dance, arts. She's the Honor Society, and most importantly, she is the face of East Wake High School student body. As the 2025 student body president, she has built a community at our school that has welcomed many students that often feel she has built a community at our school that has welcomed many students, and she feel overlooked. Also, while building up on the community of pride for our school, she is a friend of all. She is a supporter of many. She is the light of hope for a better tomorrow. Kaya King is a poster for someone who deserves to be recognized. She will be missed by many of her peers and her teachers. I, for one, will miss her immensely, and we'll be cheering for her, praying that she achieves all that her heart desires, because she deserves that and so much more. The town of Zebulun recognizes Kaya King, East Wake High School, for her leadership, kindness, and involvement in building the community. May 5th, 2025, signed Mayor Glenn L. York. Next, Mr. Christopher Tor. Okay. Mr. Tor has been a warrior for the past 4 years, and even with his relative short tenure at East Wake Magnet High School, he has made an incredible work. Mr. Tor is an outstanding English teacher who goes above and beyond to support both students and staff. Students know they can count on him. He always ready to lend a helping hand. Do you need anything, or how can I help? He is a true definition of a team player. He brings enthusiasm and humor to the class, department, and committees. Despite his frequent jokes, he's serious business in the classroom. He holds students to a high standards, encouraging them to strive for excellence and reach their full potential. Mr. Tor has the male or exceeds expected growth each year with his English 2 EOC scores, an important measurement for our school and district. He is dedicated, in his dedication and positive attitude and high achievement, he makes it easy to see why he is East Wake's 2024-25 Teacher of the Year. Thank you, Mr. Tor. The town of Zebulon recognizes Christopher Tor for East Wake High School for his dedication, positive attitude, achievements in the classroom. Signed this day, May 5th, 2025, Mayor Glenn L. York.
Thank you so much.
I am here with a proclamation in recognition of Zebulon Gifted and Talented Magnet Middle School's NCFC CLA State Conference winners. Whereas Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America is a national career and technical student organization for students in family and consumer sciences education in public and private schools. And whereas the FCCLA is a national nonprofit that offers intracurricular resources and opportunities for students to assume their roles in society throughout family and consumer sciences education in the areas of personal growth, family life, college readiness, career exploration, leadership, and community involvement. And whereas the program extends classroom learning that develops leadership and employability skills and helps young men and women learn how to plan, make decisions, and carry out evaluation programs of action through working with other youth and adults within their school, community, and state. And whereas since 1945, FCCLA members have been making a difference in their families, careers, and communities by addressing important personal, work, and societal issues through family and consumer sciences education. And whereas the Zebulon Gifted Talented Magnet Middle School has a very strong FCCLA program that is evidenced by their strong accomplishments at the North Carolina FCCLA State Conference in Greensboro, North Carolina, March 31st through April 2nd of this year, where they won in the top 2, making them eligible to attend nationals in Orlando, Florida. Now, therefore, I, Glenn York, Mayor of Town of Zebulon, hereby recognize the following Zebulon Gifted Talented Magnet Middle School FCCLA students for their accomplishments at the North Carolina FCCLA State Conference. Jackson Foy. When you get to them, you can, I guess. Come on up here, and you can just stand right up there. Thank you. Adrian Pedamonte. Okay. Keila Torres. Lydia Espinoza Mendez. Elias Brunson. Elias. Jalen Thompson Smith. Andrew Zueda. Ella Primus. Kyla Cross. Lily Frazier. Abby Vinson. Peyton Privet. Aiden Moxie. Trent Pitters, and Cameron Kingsbury. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and, well, all right. This is Lily's. And Camerson's? There you go. I just want to make sure that everybody goes home with the right ones. Peyton? Trent? Aiden? Abby? Kyla? Ella? Thank you. Andrew? Jalen? Thank you. Elias? Keila? Lydia? Adrian? Jackson? Thank you. All right, big rounds of applause for you. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And now, a proclamation in recognition of Zebulon Gifted and Talented Magnet Middle School, North Carolina HOSA State Conference winners. Whereas the Health Occupations Students of America, HOSA, is a global student-led organization recognized by the U.S. Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services and several federal and state agencies. And whereas HOSA's mission is to empower future health professionals to become leaders in the global health community through education, collaboration, and experience. Whereas HOSA provides a strong foundation for preparing tomorrow's healthcare professionals through development, leadership opportunities, community service, and whereas HOSA provides a unique program of leadership development, motivation, and recognition exclusively for secondary, post-secondary, middle school, adult, and collegiate students who have an interest in pursuing careers in health sciences, biomedical, or other health professionals. Whereas the Zebulon Gifted Talented Magnet Middle School has a HOSA program that has attended the North Carolina HOSA State Conference in Greensboro and won in the top 2 to attend nationals in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Glenn York, of the town of Zebulon, do hereby recognize the following Zebulon Gifted Talented Middle School HOSA students for their accomplishment at the North Carolina HOSA State Conference. Jelias Peters. Ferguson. All right, big, huge round of applause. Thank you so much, you guys.
Next, we will have public comment. Anyone had signed up for public comment period? It'll be no longer than 15 minutes, with the speaker having 3 minutes to speak. No speaker can speak on a public hearing item or any item that would need to be discussed under closed session. Speakers cannot speak more than during their public comment portion of the meeting and cannot give their time to another speaker. If there are more than one person wishing to speak on the same topic, with the same topic view, it is recommended that they pick one speaker to speak on the topic. If there's not enough time for you to speak, to have the opportunity to speak, those who are not able to speak will be the first to speak at the first meeting following month. We have Jennifer Holmes.
Good evening, Mayor York, commissioners, town staff. My name is Jennifer Acevedo Holmes. I live in Weaver's Pond, right here in Zebulon. I'm also founder, president, and CEO of Community Culture Celebration, also known as C3, a Zebulon-based nonprofit that creates spaces where culture is celebrated, voices are uplifted, and everyone feels like they belong. I'm once again honored to stand here tonight with members of my community, not just to speak, but to be seen, to be able to move forward together. Let me begin with what brings us together. In the town's Park and Recreation Master Plan, your vision is to create recreational culture opportunities that enhance quality of life and connect our residents through positive impacts on health, wellness, social interaction, economic wealth, and in environmental stewardship. Also, the Zebulon 2030 strategic plan echoes, calling for more festivals and culture experiences, more places where neighbors can gather, more community-driven initiatives supported by town infrastructure and leadership. Everything here that I'm going to speak about tonight aligns with that vision. Now let me show you what that looks like in action. During the recent Springfest, 2 town staff members, Amy Hayden and Hope Mitchell, showed what true partnership looks like. After a last-minute rain delay, they worked with me to make sure a culture performance could still happen. Thanks to their creativity and commitment, we welcome Taquiri Folklore Latino, a traditional Colombian dance group that traveled from across Raleigh and Durham to perform here in Zebulon that night. To the members of Taquiri who are here with us tonight, you didn't just perform. You invited the community to dance, to connect, and to celebrate together. You brought energy, pride, and joy. You showed us what community feels like, and thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, I'm asking the town to help us build on that momentum by supporting 3 community-driven efforts. 1, language access in town meetings. Back in February, I submitted a formal request for live Spanish interpretation at public meetings. I followed up multiple times in writing, in person, and most recently via email to the interim town manager on May 1st. Still, the initiative hasn't moved. This is not just about convenience. It's about access, participation, and dignity for Zebulon Spanish-speaking residents who make up at least 17 to 18% of our population. I'm asking this board to prioritize this request and move it forward now. The second thing is the Latino Festival. On March 26th, I submitted a formal application for what would be Zebulon's first ever Latino Festival, a joyful, family-friendly celebration of cultures that are already a part of this town. On April 15th, I met in person with town staff across departments. I was told it may take until June to even get a response, leaving just 2 months to plan a large-scale public event. As of today, I received no update. I want to be clear, I'm not asking for more than what already is being provided. I'm asking for the same commitment and support the town is already giving to this year's Juneteenth celebration, and I've also done my research. I've met with the town of Knightdale to learn from their recent Latin American festival held on April 27th, and I'm ready to bring a similar model to Zebulon. Here's what I need from the town: partnership and in-kind support, waive and reimbursement of event fees, provide essentials like restroom, barricades, and signage, coordinate safety and street closure with police, fire, and EMS, collaborate with us on a clear emergency action plan, and most importantly, provide a clear timeline for event review and approval. This is an opportunity to celebrate and include the very communities who already call Zebulon home. The last thing I want to bring up is athletic field access. Lastly, I want to speak on the ongoing experiences myself and Emilio Reyes, a respected community leader and founder of one of the largest adult soccer leagues in East Wake. Weeks ago, Emilio submitted a request to reserve athletic fields in Zebulon. We followed up with an in-person meeting and multiple emails, and still, we received no confirmed path forward. We've asked for process, we asked for fairness. Tonight, I'm asking publicly, Director of Parks and Rec, Sheila Long, we respectfully request a written response outlining next steps, including any legal review you've mentioned. And moving forward, we're requesting that all correspondence be documented in writing to ensure clarity and accountability on all sides. As I close, I want to say, we're not asking for help. We're offering partnership, grounded in action, not just words. This work reflects exactly what's outlined on our town strategy. We're already doing it, and we're already showing up. The only question is, will the town stand with us? Si se puede, siempre unidos. Gracias. He's Emilio Reyes. Next.
Hello, buenas tardes a todos.
Emilio Reyes.
Buenas tardes. My only comment is something about Jennifer mentioned sobre soccer fields. I would like to see if can I take the opportunity to come rent. I am 25 years living in this area, and I love this town. I love the people, because many people from here, they give me the hand to do the things I do, soccer. I am from Mexico, I know about it. We love the soccer, and just I try to promote that kind of sport. All right, it's only my sincerely comment. So my English is not the best, but I try to speak the best way I can.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry por mi inglés, pero trato de hablar lo mejor que se pueda. Tengo 25 años aquí viviendo en Zebulon y siempre he tratado de integrarme a la comunidad. La mayoría de la gente que me ha ayudado a hacer esto posible del fútbol ha sido gente de aquí, nativa de Zebulon, y verdaderamente yo aprecio eso porque me han extendido su mano para ayudarme a hacer lo que a mí me gusta hacer, que es deporte y fútbol. Es todo. Gracias por escucharme.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have, is it Robert Torrey?
Robert Terry. Do I have to give my address and everything?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Robert Terry, 10608 Staghound Trail, Zebulon. I'll be real brief. I just wanted to thank you all for being here, number one. On behalf of the Gateway Zebulon project team, I'd like to express our gratitude to the town staff and the planning department who have been excellent to work with so far in everything that we've had to do. They've been, excuse me, they've been very attentive to any inquiries and to help us understand the UDO and that type of thing. The rest of the town staff, we appreciate the planning board for their thorough review and unanimous recommendation. To the investor team here with the engineers, the designers and the legal representations, they've really turned a vision into reality for us. And I wanted to thank Cecil Flowers. I don't see Cecil here tonight, but he was always available at short notice during the due diligence period to help us with whatever task needed to take place. He was very helpful. And most importantly, I'd like to thank all the citizens of Zebulon who supported this project and spoke on its behalf. Your advocacy made a meaningful difference. So we really appreciate the support from the townspeople. To the Board of Commissioners, we sincerely appreciate your time and consideration, and with your approval, we're eager to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Mailer.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner, staff, and the community that's here. My name is Cindy Mallard. I am at from 900 North Church Street. I am stepping out of my comfort zone to come here tonight to share why I signed the Clean Slate petition. I didn't take this lightly. I spent some time considering it, and I signed in hopes that my voice and other voices could be heard. My concerns are not about you individually. I appreciate the passion and perspective that each of you bring to the table. My concerns are that decisions are slow or not made at all, policy is not followed, staff is not heard, and the cost of these things monetarily and emotionally are taking a toll on all of us. In addition, I want to say, Mayor York, you were right when you posted that Zebulon is open for business. I see the employees of this town out every day doing the business of this town, and I would like to thank them publicly for all that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Haslin.
Can you hear me? I'm not tall. I'm a 3-year resident or 5-year resident of Zebulon, and I'm at 808 North Church Street. There's an elephant in the room, and it's about to trample us if we continue to ignore it. To that end, the clean slate petition that has been circulating is an attempt to encourage community members to face the elephant. Research and fact-finding played a central role in my life as a university professor teaching critical race theory. In retirement, I continue to value searching for the truth in all matters. When I became aware of Mr. Todd's resignation, I knew there must be more to the story. When Mrs. Williams also resigned, I reached out to her as a neighbor and friend. After spending time with both of these individuals, I am convinced that great harm has been done by some members of the Zebulon Board of Commissioners and staff, and I will do what I can to seek justice and truth and help to positively work toward a fully functioning Zebulon government in which cooperation and collaboration are its hallmarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Scott Carpenter.
Good evening. My name is Scott Carpenter, and I live within the Zebulon town limits. Honorable Mayor York, Mayor Pro Tem Harrison, Commissioners, Manager Jaioba, staff, and citizens. It is a privilege and therefore an honor to speak to you tonight. Tonight, I would like to tell you about the Zebulon Citizens Advisory Partnership, ZCAP. Let me describe ZCAP by answering the 5 W's. Who, what, why, when, and where. Who? Zebulon citizens. Who we are is right in the name, Zebulon citizens. If you live within town limits, you are ZCAP. If you live in the ETJ, you are ZCAP. If you live outside of town, if you own property, if you own a business, or if you're just curious about Zebulon, you are ZCAP. All voices and opinions are welcome. What? Advisory partnership. ZCAP seeks dialogue and discussion with an emphasis on problem solving to help citizens and the town's elected officials and staff to identify and resolve concerns. Why? Problems can't be solved without dialogue. ZCAP is similar to other citizen advisory committees found throughout North Carolina, such as the Raleigh Citizen Advisory Council or the Durham Citizens Advisory Committee. In fact, our bylaws were modeled directly after the Raleigh CAC. When towns experience rapid growth, changes, and pressing issues, it is helpful for citizens to come together to discuss concerns, learn the history, and help that town work towards solutions. When? The third Tuesday of every month at 5:30 p.m. Where? 308 Proctor Street in the Fellowship Hall of the Wakefield Central Baptist Church. Let me also say what ZCAP is not. First, ZCAP is not a political organization. We focus on problem solving the issues and concerns that we can work on to inform and or resolve. Second, while there has recently been a petition circulating through town, ZCAP is not the creator of that petition. Regardless, ZCAP recognizes that it is a part of the discussion that now exists in Zebulon, and dialogue around any and all issues is something that ZCAP supports. How? Open meetings to discuss any topic. ZCAP is not board appointed, it is citizen formed and led. ZCAP has met openly for about 6 months where members talk and engage with one another face to face. We look each other in the eye, as one of our members says. We have talked about the good things we enjoy about Zebulon and want to continue. We have worked with the Zebulon Police Department to help citizens address public safety concerns. We have worked with the Planning Department to help citizens understand the code enforcement submission and tracking process. We have had a presentation on how the Zebulon budget process works. We have collected questions and forwarded them on to the town. We will be soon looking through the upcoming proposed budget. On behalf of ZCAP, I thank the mayor for speaking with us earlier this year, other elected officials who have indicated a willingness to engage and or who have dropped by ZCAP meetings, and staff who have helped educate ZCAP. I also thank Mayor Jaioba for offering to have a sit-down dialogue session with ZCAP later this month. In fact, if anyone has comments or questions that you want presented to the town, please join ZCAP at our next meeting on May 20th, where we will have another round of open issues discussion, and just in time for ZCAP to then engage with the town manager the following week. Everyone is ZCAP. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday, May 20th at 308 Proctor Street for our next regular meeting. Bring your questions, bring your concerns, and most importantly, bring a desire to solve problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will need the approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, before we make our presentations tonight, I just want to give an opening statement with regards to the budget preparation or process over the next few weeks. Let's see if I can put this close to my mouth. So over the next several days, starting this evening, we're going to present draft budgets by department to you for your consideration. So tonight, we're going to hear from Information Technology, Economic Development, and Public Works. Now, each one of those departments will present operating and capital at the same time, and there's a method to that madness, if you would. Later in the week, we will have another work session for Fire Department, Police Department, Planning, Parks and Recreation, and it'll follow the same process of operating and capital project, and then or capital expenditures, and then next week, Finance, Administration, and Human Resources will present. So my request for you today and during the next couple of days as we review these draft presentations is that you treat them more like listening sessions and just kind of take it in. Yes, you can ask clarifying questions, and if you have suggestions for each department, please share them. I believe you have binders where you have different memos and presentation over time that we're going to give to you so you'll be able to have all the information. On May 20, we will present a combined draft budget to you for your review, and that will be your opportunity or our opportunity together to dive in and ask questions. In addition, please, after tonight's presentation, after the presentation later in the week and also next week, please feel free to reach out to each department directors to ask specific questions about their requests and their proposals. On June 2nd, we're going to have a public hearing, and then on June 7th, I'm proposing that we have a couple hours of budget retreat where we're also able to dive in and really unpack the budget. As you know, we have less than 60 days that we're required by state law to actually have an adopted budget. So we have a very compressed schedule to review these presentations. By comparison, last year you saw these previews first in January, then in February, then March. You had operating budgets presented to you separately, and then there was CIP, or Capital Investment Plan, presented to you separately. We do not have that luxury this time. I came on board on April 17 that evening, and your charge to me was to make sure that we have a fiscal year 25-26 budget adopted by June, so literally 2 months to get everything in front of you. And so, unfortunately, we don't have the luxury that we had last year, so we basically have a compressed schedule. But we're moving forward. As of this morning, our Facebook post that was launched about a week ago has reached 4,399 local residents through public input. I think that's a big deal. That's, if we estimate our population to be about 13,000 or so, that's a big deal to actually have about 4,400 local residents connect with the budget input. To build on that public input or public process, we're going to host an open house in the next several days, probably on the 14th, prior to your work session, so we can get more of our residents who have not really participated to ask questions. In addition to the budget presentations today, you're also going to hear from our consultant, Mr. David Hill, who has been working on our compensation study for the past several months. If you recall, when I first came on June of last year, you adopted as part of the FY 24-25 budget that we conduct a compensation study. My tenure as an interim ended in January, but Mr. Hill had his findings and recommendations presented to me back in November, December timeframe. But when I came on board, realized that you had not been presented with those findings at all. So I'm going to ask him to present those recommendations to us tonight because employee morale is key. But also the fact is that to make Zebulon, or the town of Zebulon, an employer of choice, you've got to be in a very good position where we can compete with the surrounding towns. Subsequent budget presentations will integrate the preferred scenario because he's going to share a few recommendations with you. And we're going to have subsequent presentations that will integrate the preferred scenario for your review. So I wanted to clarify those, and it's very important because really, if today is March 5th, we really have less than 60 days to get all of these previews in front of you, to get draft budget in front of you, to get these study recommendations and findings integrated. You're not only dealing with operating dollars, you're also going to be dealing with capital dollars. And so I want to make sure that the public listening to us tonight understand that we have a seriously compressed period. Something that could easily have taken 6-7 months, we're doing it in 2. And so we're going to try as much as possible, understanding that we have that short time to accommodate your questions, your points of clarifications. We're going to make sure that we process all the responses we've received from the community to make sure that they align with your strategic priorities. This is going to be a heavy lift over the next several weeks as we walk through this. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our Chief Information Officer, Ms. Tonya Histerwood, to present our draft budget. And she'll be followed by our draft budget requests. And she'll be followed by Ms. Shannon Johnson, our Economic Development Director, who will present Economic Development draft budget. And then our Public Works Interim Director, Mr. Tim Howens, will step forward to do that. Those are the 3 we're going to have today. Again, if you will listen and please ask points of clarification. And if there are suggestions you have for us, we're going to do the same thing in a couple of days this week, and then we'll have the 3rd round next week before we do a combined budget on May 20. Thank you. Don't know if there's any question for me before she steps forward.
Any questions from the board? Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present the IT technology budget for fiscal year 2026. My goal today is to provide an overview of our strategic priorities and how we plan to support and secure our organization's technology and infrastructure. So currently, our information technology department consists of 2 positions, which is my current role and also an IT specialist that was approved this year. And what we do between the 2 of us is the strategic planning, being a part of the project management components, and then not only that, but also managing the day-to-day operations and support for all of the departments across the town. Here on this slide is a summary of what our vision, mission, and core values are that are stated in the current strategic plan. And on one side, it is the Zebulons, and then you see an IT vision. Even though it is separate on a separate column, it still aligns the same. I just break it down to what we represent in our department, which is very much in alignment with what we see for our town. So one of the primary things is for the vision to empower, not just ourselves and our department, but our employees, so they are very independent in all that they do, whether they are in the office or if they're in the field. Our mission is to make sure that everything is reliable, that it is secure, as we're laying the foundation for innovative technology solutions. And then our guiding principles highly align with what our core values are, which is integrity, community focus, respect, reliability, and collaboration. Hopefully, since I've onboarded, this has been several of the items that everyone has experienced since I have onboarded here. Just to dig down a little deeper, I have 3 key primary areas that I kind of focus on for technology. I would consider them pillars. So you see the support, and if you notice, that aligns with our growing smart. Data governance, data and governance, which is our small town life, and then infrastructure, which is our vibrant downtown. And the core of everything that we do is risk management. So our focus in the user support is the day-to-day utilization. the tools, the technologies, all the things that we're providing to make sure that everyone have what they need when they need it in a timely manner. Also, data and governance. One of the things we're trying to make sure is that we're not just making decisions to purchase items, but using data to support those things that we're doing to move us forward. We can buy a lot of devices, but if they do not support a strong foundation, we can be all over the place. So we want to be very strategic in how we're guiding where we're moving from now into the future. And then the infrastructure, everything that supports what we do, even though it's here in Town Hall, there's several things that touch downtown, our businesses, how we're making sure that systems and processes are also supporting, all while still aligning with the strategic plan. To make this a little more simple, these are the same three pillars: user support, data governance, and infrastructure. This year we had the honor of being able to support many of our end users, whether it was with tablets to make sure they were more secure so they can have their online virtual meetings. We had some guys that are on the ground, they need to be in the field. Sometimes you can't make it back to the office. So providing them with technology and laptops that they can do work while they're in the field versus having to do the work and then get back into the office and complete the work after that. So kind of streamlining that. We have standardized the laptops that we desire for all employees to have. There is a base model. However, every model don't fit the same. There's some devices that require a lot more efficiency, a lot more power. So we have tried to begin also increasing those as well. For data governance, what we're also trying to do is make sure we have an accurate asset database, which tells us where devices are, the number of devices, and also when those renewal needs to take place. We have had special projects. What falls in our special projects are whenever we end up having, let's say we had an issue with connectivity earlier this year. Our community center right behind there, our guys that are working in the warehouse, they had to step outside to even connect to the internet. So sometimes it was raining. So that was not something that we could plan for, but it is something that we could plan to fix, and that we did. So sometimes those special projects come up that's unforeseen in the budget, but those were things that we were able to do as well. One of the other things we're trying to do is organize the organizational software. Things that directly import all of us or impact all of us, that would fall up under technology. But then technology is also being at the table as we're also adopting those new softwares and technologies in the other departments. The department heads will still be the management of oversight. However, being at the table to be able to ask key questions prior to purchasing some software, and also reducing some of the redundancy to making sure we're not purchasing the same device multiple times. Infrastructure, we have servers, switches, and firewalls. Those things are things that you don't see, but they are very critical to everything that we do. And some of the things that we do with the infrastructure is we have to make sure that they're safe. And in order for us to do that, we have to be able to see it. And then if we can see it, we can support it. And if we can support it, we can make sure that we're safe, secure. Finally, if we take a look at my budgeted items, I think we're probably roughly around 19,000, a little higher for this fiscal year. And I think it may fall in salaries as we have added the new position or role, being full-time. That could be an estimate as well because, of course, I'm not as great as Bobby is, but I did try to make a couple of adjustments to guess what those salary and benefits would look like. Our materials and supplies, everything we took down, supplies. So one of the primary areas, or several of the primary areas I want to take a look at, was down in professional services, contracted services, computer and devices, network and infrastructure. The reason I wanted to take a look at these, you may already have questions about them, so hopefully I can answer those and there won't be as many questions. So what is professional services? Some of our professional services, like I mentioned with the community center, we also had to rent some devices to fix some of the internet connectivity at the firehouse. So we don't have a ladder to get on top of the building, so we had to lease that. That's some things that are unseen. Also, the contracted IT services. We do have some software, but there are times things go down, we have to have a specialist come on site. So we did get to reduce that somewhat because we have brought those expertise in-house. Computers and devices. We are still trying to replace our devices as well to make sure that everyone has a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM on each device that we have, because literally if you have less than that, it really means you can really only open Office and probably the internet, and it'll begin crashing. So we had a lot of blue screens, but we can only do it in phases, but that's what we're working towards. Many times our priority is our PD, so we try to make sure we build those in early on, but getting all of that in the house, network and infrastructure, as I mentioned, it will be our servers, our switches, and I've taken an assessment of what we have in-house, and we do have some things that we need to take a look at, but we do have our firewalls in place. We have a lot of things that are in place that we, that you can't see that we use. An example of that could just be Office 365. One license can be roughly $200 a month per user. We're currently sitting at roughly 148, whether it be full-time and part-time staff. That's just one, just for Office 365. We also have tools and technologies that we have to have in place as it relates to our public records requests, but then also minimizing our phishing attempts. And to some degree, you guys have been tested because we do also do some phishing attempts to see if you're going to click. So we're also doing that to make sure we begin teaching you guys how to be safe. So we're building some of those things in as well. So where you see those broken down, that's where those are the expenses that falls in those line items. Our phones and wireless, though you see two, we have our desk phones. We stay connected to our phones, many of us, and then our wireless service. We do have MiFis, we do have devices that have internet within that device, so you don't have to carry two devices. So that is the difference between those items. And if you take a look, the subtotal would be everything from cell phones to wireless service, and then the total budget will include the salaries. Now, in fiscal year 24-25, you do see that it's kind of grouped, but this year they're kind of broken out and it's a few different line items, but it's just providing just a little bit more clarity. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments from the board?
Say that so last year IT's budget was included with administration, so you never saw this breakdown, but we pulled out IT out of administration. And similarly this year we're going to pull out HR or human resources out of administration. The town is growing and some functions do not need to be consolidated, they need to be pulled out, so that you, as our board and the community, can actually see how the different expenses by departments, how they are. So that's, you never saw this last year, but I think this is a good way to start going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I'm here to present the Community and Economic Development Budget. My presentation highlights changes from the previous year's budget, primarily, but you have the information there. So I wanted to start off with the Zebulon Downtown Development Association. They are an active 501c3 nonprofit that is run by the board. They have a board, and then they are connected to the town through the staff member that provides services for them and for the town as well. So one of the areas that they manage is the facade grant, and it's $15,000, the same as the previous year, although the previous year it was included with a building upfit, a downtown improvement grant, and then 2 years ago. Then this last year they were separated out, and now we're looking at just the facade grant at $15,000. 5 grants were distributed this year with 1 grant pending. That means they've submitted an application, but until the work is complete and the receipts are submitted and there's approval, we haven't distributed that one yet. So that's how much we are looking at distributing this year, and with our increase in building turnover, we'll probably see that plus more next year. The next the next grant item that you'll see is the Downtown Improvement Grant Building Upfit. It was $23,000 allotted for that last year. The ZDDA board did not create that program this fiscal year. Their intention is to get it into their programming for this next fiscal year. So we thought that if it was in place by the 6-month part, then $15,000 would be sufficient to get started. And they will choose how to distribute that from establishing businesses that are outlined in a market analysis. So market analysis shows us what we have and what we don't have. So they'll be able to give a little bit of priority to those businesses we're trying to recruit to balance the downtown businesses. Main Street also, now that they're a nonprofit, needs organization insurance. That insurance includes officers and directors, volunteer insurance, and general liability. Main Street offers a connection with the National Historic Trust, and they give a bundled policy, so it's pretty easy to do. This is the kind of expense that as Main Street, as the ZDDA raises their own funds, they would start taking over more administrative expenses at first as they graduate into funding their operation. One of the things that we do have as a new, actually CIP in this budget is $19,000 for the Main Street Tourism Plan, which is a group called Uplift. This is a plan and organization that was suggested by North Carolina Main Street Department of Commerce. They had their first meeting last week. That's actually a picture of that meeting. And they were able to come up with 5 themes for tourism itineraries. And we will have a follow-up meeting at the end of June that will refine those. And those will be part of the Greater Raleigh Visitor Bureau website. They will be on the new county app called Wander that will be coming out later this summer or early in the fall, and also just on general websites. So the tourism plan funding here is to continue that work into next year, next fiscal year, and be able to make more of those tourism plans, and also a signature event that is a primarily a large event for the town and a fundraiser for the ZDDA. For community and economic development, we have small business programming as a new line item, and that is to support launch. The launch recruitment will start in June, and the program will begin in September at East Wake Tech. The funding is for marketing, a little bit of programming support, and then the graduation ceremony. We'll also have the town's first comprehensive business retention and expansion program starting this summer. That will run through the course of 9 months to a year, and that is part of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and we'll interview and survey as many businesses as possible, from our largest employers down to sole proprietors that may possibly work out of their home. And the goal of that is to gather the data, analyze the data, understand the needs to retain businesses and potential expansion, and then how we can provide those services, primarily through partnerships with other organizations, but there could be some that are particular to Zebulon that come back to you in next year's budget request. Also for community economic and economic development, we have infrastructure assessment and upgrade. We are requesting $30,000 down from $50,000. These funds are currently being utilized to assess the condition of 200 East Horton Street property, understand the priority of actions needed to preserve that historic home, and then potentially understanding the highest and best use considering where it sits and the fact that it's in Zebulon. So the architect that's working on that will have those reports for us in a few months that will come to you first, and you guys will all see what's happening with that property. We are also using those funds to address infrastructure issues affecting downtown buildings and general infrastructure downtown. The request of $30,000 is to focus on locating and assessing the condition of water and sewer pipes in downtown. The miscellaneous charges are marketing. We had a $5,000 number in marketing. That's allocated for, but not spent. It will be spent before the end of this year because we already determined what's going to happen with that. So we're upping it to $10,000. We will have our marketing video complete here in 45 days before the end of this fiscal year. And we will be marketing heavily with that. We will also have a new web page for economic development and for downtown, and that will be completed a little bit after our fiscal year runs over, and that will be part of our marketing as well. And then we have furniture in our budget to really develop our small area in finance to look a little more professional. The move that we made to finance due to growth was putting together some cubicles that we found. So it's not as inviting to the public for meetings and to really introduce ourselves. So we put a little bit in there to kind of spruce up that area until there are other offices developed. And so the final numbers I just wanted you to see, we've requested less than in 24-25. And you know, I'm happy to take any questions about that, about any of the line items you see. Certainly I can expand upon them. If I can't do it right now, then I can certainly get the information for you.
Questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you listening to us. Hope you had a good day. I'm going to be very high level, a lot higher level than the last presentations, but it's going to be informative, and we've given all the information, backup data to the interim manager. Some of our key staff up there, you'll see that top line. They're going to introduce themselves and tell you what the position is. That's okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Duffy. I'm the Administrative and Contracts Manager.
Good evening. I'm Joe Collins, the Capital Projects Manager. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Kevin Watson. I am the Stormwater Manager in Public Works.
Let's see here. So they're here for moral support, basically. And any questions? So you'll see we have some vacancies as in the Operations Manager column there. We're trying to work hard to fill all those vacancies, particularly the operators. Mary helped me a lot on this budget, so she did the most of the heavy lifting. Joe, we're going to talk about projects here shortly. Joe's got a handle on all that. I'm going to give it to the interim manager here shortly. We're trying to update it, and I'm sure you guys get a copy of that. There's probably 4 pages of different types of projects we're working on. This next slide is basically the 4 different divisions of Public Works as far as the budget goes, the line items. You'll see property and project management, operations, PAL bill, stormwater. For the most part, the employees are split between property and project management and operations. And like I said, we have a lot of detail on that, and Bobby's going to take a look at that for us and make sure that's all correct. Main budget concerns moving forward. I'm not going to go over this slide. Growth-related pressures. I mean, you guys know that. So these are some of those line items that we just mentioned. Property and project management for 24-25 was 4.3. For 25-26, it's 2.3. Operations was 9.2 and 3.6. So the total, well, we'll get the PAL bill, 279,275, stormwater 265 and 287. So these are all proposals at this point. There's the difference in last year's budget versus this budget. It is mostly capital. So in the property and project management, there were $1.45 million worth of budgets, projects in there. We'll see those in a second. And then in operations, it was basically $5.5 million worth of projects, so that sort of explains the difference there. We loaded up a little bit of capital, we'll get to that in a second, and then some paving, and we'll get to that here shortly. So we're asking, as far as employees go at this point, you can see that going from a part-time receptionist to full-time, admin 1, and to promote Janine, who's admin 1, to admin 2. We're also, like I said, working quickly to fill vacancies, and then there's some interim status on some of the managers. I'd like to see that change at some point, and we're talking about that. You'll see this probably in June, this slide. This is capital project ordinances. Basically, these will live through budget years because sometimes they take more than a budget year, and these were loaded in this year's budget. So what'll happen is when you get into next year's budget, it won't be budgeted in here, it'll be a standalone. And it can live between multiple budget years, and when you're done, basically, you close them out and sweep it into whatever fund you want to sweep it into. So I'm not going to go over these projects, but this is something that's loaded in this year's budget that we want to push into project ordinances. Some of them have started already. Some of them are almost finished, but it's just a variety of different projects that we had in this budget, this current budget. Here's a really scaled down version of some of the projects we're working on. Again, this would have been 3 slides probably, but it's just a real short list of some of the things that we do in Public Works. And again, Joe's got a good handle on these. As far as the capital needs that we have in this coming up year, 25-26, we need to replace the town hall bagger mower, $25K. We would like to have a new stand-on mini skid steer to help workflow. The bucket truck is basically 25 years old, and that's the lifespan. So if we don't buy one, we'll have to rent one. We talked about Public Works office expansion. That would be design, and that's basically the plans I've seen are to add on to either end and do some upgrades to the building. And then we've sort of started we have definitely started the process for looking at office furniture and reorganization, and hopefully we can get there. So there you see 385 in capital, and then 450 in paving is what we've added into the budget. So in the future, and I'm not going to get into this, and I have ideas, but I mean, we just need to think smarter, I think, in Public Works, and think about how we can still deliver the same product and not have to hire a lot of people, and let those folks focus on other things, that are needs. But this is for somebody else another day. But I've enjoyed my time here. Like I said, the staff is awesome. They're very smart. We just need to get filled up and move forward. So thank you, guys.
Any questions, comments from the board? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just say one thing, and then I have 2 requests of you. One directive that I had given to our department directors is to try as much as possible that this upcoming budget year is not your robust budget year where we are, coming for major requests. It's really almost like we're just, keeping the line, making things function, turning the lights on, and not doing anything extraordinary except if it's so important for us to do that. And so Public Works, Parks and Rec, Police, that's where we usually have the majority of expense, but you could see by what Director Owens presented that that's probably going to be the same thing when you see Public Works in the next couple of days. And then Police, you're likely going to see us asking maybe for 1 or 2 more staff or converting a part-time position into full-time, or not expanding staff but filling vacant positions. Sometimes few people do so much because there's vacancies. And then, like he said, we're going to also make sure that we address those interim positions while we're filling vacancies as well. So again, thank you for taking the time. Before I invite Mr. Hill to speak on the compensation study, you were scheduled to have the next work session on May 8th, but I understand that a number of us are not going to be here. A number of you may not be here. So we're proposing May 7th, but I just would like to throw that out there in terms of if that's a possibility so the public is aware. And then secondly, I'm proposing a budget retreat for June 7th. That's a Saturday, which will give us an extra day to be able to walk through, again, because we have a compressed timeline to work with. So again, Mayor, I don't know what the pleasure of the board is with regards to May 7th. That's on Wednesday versus May 8th.
Fine by me.
Good. Okay.
Good. Partly.
Sunday, and it will be recorded as well. So, and then June 7th, will that work for most of you, or some of you, or majority of you?
I cannot do June 7th.
Okay, but everybody else is okay. Okay, all right. So we'll notify. We'll make sure that we get the message out to the public as well with regards to those 2 changes. On May 7th, Wednesday, we're going to have Fire, Police, Parks and Recreation, and Planning Department directors who, and the chiefs will present to you. Okay, I'd like to introduce our friend.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. What time, June 7th?
On May 7th. June. We're thinking, we haven't decided yet, but we're thinking morning time, breakfast to noon, so you can go about the rest of your day.
Do that. Okay.
Okay.
Just
good.
let us, it just depends on the time, but if we can work out. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. So Mr. Hill has been working with us now for the last, actually we brought him on after the last budget was adopted last year, June, to work with our staff on the compensation study. And so he's going to share with you some of the communities that we compared with, but also he's going to present some scenarios. You will have questions for him, I'm sure. And so, you know, he's the expert in the room. He does this not just for us, but for multiple municipalities across the state and even in South Carolina as well. So he's well versed in what he does. And but I believe you will have questions that you've seen in the presentation. So I'll let you go, David. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this evening. I am David Hill. I work for the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. That's the Council of Government up in the Greensboro, Winston-Salem area. But I'm also part of a group of 6 retired local government employees who work outside of that area providing human resource services to local governments. Tonight I'm going to provide an overview. It's the culmination of a minimum of 6 months worth of work. And I very much appreciate the assistance from Ty, from Lisa, from Bobby, especially input and meetings with department directors. We were last here in fiscal year 2021, and the results at that time were because of a full comprehensive study that we conducted. The most current study is known as a market study, where we just take a look at your current positions based on our knowledge from our previous study and compare those to similar positions in other local governments. So before I begin, at the very beginning of the study, Lisa sent to me a workforce census, and that's important to any study I do because it's that snapshot of what your workforce looks like at the beginning of each study. So what we will take a look at in the next several slides is merely a snapshot of the workforce at the beginning of the study. This is data from August. I then will go into the actual collection of the data, the results of that collection and recommendations based on that collection and analysis of data. Before we look at the next several slides, this is the backdrop that I need for you to keep in mind as we look at the information. Obviously, this is a bell curve. And in this bell curve, I look for standard deviation of data. And obviously, anything that can be measured in a mature workforce, and assuming that the sample size is large enough, I should be able to find about 2/3 of your employees in the middle 1/3 of this bell curve. My definition of a mature workforce is that you have an average years of employment between 8 and 10 years. And again, if you have that mature workforce, length of service, and again, hoping that the sample size is large enough, I should be able to find 2/3 of your employees, and this is important when we look at the next several slides. This also represents a pay grade range, with the far left being the minimum or entry-level salaries, the far right being the maximum salaries. The middle section would be what's known as the midpoint or the market value. The market value is where I should be able to find a salary of an employee working in a position, again, in that 8 to 10 year period. Now, before going to the next slides, I first will apologize. I cannot recreate a bell curve. So when we get to the next several slides, my bell curves look somewhat like St. Louis arches. And sometimes I even wonder if they look like St. Louis arches. The first slide you're looking at, again, based on data from August, is the number of employees who were working for you in August, who came to work for you in each of those calendar years. So you can see that most of the high bars are on the far left side, which means automatically that you've got a relatively young workforce. But actually, at the time of this data collection, your average years of employment was 6.9 years. I now direct your attention to the bottom right side. This is the data collected only 4 years ago. So in the study we did in fiscal year 2021, you look at the very bottom of that right bottom side, your average years of employment 4 years ago was 8.9 years. So in the very relatively short period of time from fiscal year 2021 until August of this year, you have lost 2 years worth of average years of employment. 2 years may not sound like a lot, but in a workforce, the loss of 2 years worth of average years of employment is a significant decrease. In the center bottom, Bobby sent me an updated spreadsheet last week. So even from August, when your average years of employment was 6.9, your average years of employment as of last week had continued to drop. It's now 6.28 years. Looking at the bars on that graph, what that does is represent the number of employees, again, who were working for you at the time of that spreadsheet in August. What it does not tell me is the number of employees who actually came to work in each of those calendar years. All it represents is the number of employees who were still working with you at that time. What this graph also represents is recruitment and retention. The left side of this bar graph is a good image of recruitment. As you look to the right side of those bars, you can see what retention looks like. And I can tell you, based on historical data, that if we follow those two bars on the left, if we follow those bars for the next 3 to 5 years, they will look like those smaller, shorter bars to the right. The next thing I take a look at the beginning of each study is the pay grade ranges. I take a look at employee salaries. Where are employee salaries in relation to their pay grade range? Now, going back to the first slide, if you look at those bars on the far left side, relatively short period of employment. But when I look at this slide, there are very few bars on the right side. This is an excellent distribution of salaries. But when I look at this slide compared to the first slide, I immediately think that your pay grade ranges are not competitive, that you're having to bring employees to work at salaries further up in the pay grade range. Again, that's an excellent distribution of salaries, but when I compare it to the first slide, young workforce, I can only assume that pay grade ranges aren't competitive. Or management has done a great job of making salary adjustments, creating this distribution that you see. When I get to my recommendations, I will refer back to this slide. One of my recommendations is based strictly on that slide right there. But what that slide shows us is in 2% increments, where are employee salaries in relation to their pay grade range? The black bar in the center is the midpoint. Your salary grade range is right at 53%, which means that the maximum salary is 53% greater than the minimum. So then if you look at the bottom left, you've only got 1.13% of your employees whose salaries are less than 2% above minimum. If you look to the bottom right side, you can see that 4 years ago, 13%, almost 14% of your employees had salaries compressed within less than 2%. Back to the left side, 6.8% of your employees have salaries less than 5%. If you look over to the right side, you compare that to 4 years ago, 23%. So I won't go through all of those, but the town has, part of our recommendations 4 years ago were based on salary compression. So you can see over on the bottom right side, you had over 40% of your employees with salaries compressed within less than 10% above minimum. So if you look over on the bottom left side, that has reduced down to 27%. But this actually will be one of my recommendations when I get to one of those final slides. So the market comparisons. So who were those local governments that we used to compare each of your positions? So there, the slide contains those local governments that we looked at. In the next slide, I'm going to show you one classification. I'm not going to stand here tonight and show you 149 different slides. But when you look at the next slide, and this is just a representative of what market data looks like, what do I look for in that data? How do I use that data? But each one of your positions, each one of your classifications has a worksheet like this. This is for police officer. Everything above the blue line is the market for this particular classification. So for each of those local governments, what you see in the first column is the minimum salary that they have for this particular classification. followed by the midpoint, followed by the maximum salary. Then in the column titled Actual, you can see what the actual average salary is for a police officer. Now again, this is for that specific classification of police officer. This is not for sergeant, this is not for lieutenant, this is not for chief. Each one of those has their own slide. This is for your patrol officer, your police officer. And then I take a look at their range. I take a look at the column titled CR, stands for compa ratio. That's a relative position of where is my salary in relation to the midpoint. When I get to my recommendations, I'll talk more about compa ratio. I then take a look at, because ranges vary, I don't look at the compa ratio, I take a look at percent above minimum. But anyway, those are just items and data points that I use when I'm looking at positions and making recommendations on what pay grade the position should go to. Immediately below the blue line for this particular classification, police officer is in grade 11, has a minimum salary of $52,500, a max of $79,700. Average salary was $59,300. Immediately below Zebulun's information is the average of the market. So the average minimum for a police officer is $56,500. Immediately to the left of that, you see minus 7%. That means that your minimum or entry-level salary for a police officer is 7% less than the average of this market. Then if you look over under the actual column, you can see that the Zebulon average salary was the $59,300, average for the market, $59,800. So your salary, average salary is basically what the market is. If you look at the median, the pay grade range is 8.5% below, and actual salary dips just a tiny bit below. The grayscaled column that you see that's titled 3%. So what we're looking at on that data above the blue line is current data from each of these local governments. My grayscaled column, the 3% column, says what is going to happen to this current data as of the beginning of the next fiscal year. So what I'm doing with this data is forecasting that on average, the data that you're looking at there is going to increase 3%. So then, the bottom line. Now, when I get to the slide where I'm going to take a look at your pay grades and your overall pay plan, I'm not saying that a police officer should increase 11 grades. I'm showing that my recommended grade is 22, but that's in my new proposed pay plan. But what I'm looking at is the current minimum average, the current minimum median, right in that $56,500, $57,000 range. So my recommendation today is to move police officer from the current grade 11 with a minimum of $52,500 to my proposed new grade 22, which has a minimum of $56,000, which catches you up to where the market is today. Now, the other side of the coin when I'm looking at this data is I probably need to move that position to grade 23 because on or about the beginning of the new next fiscal year, I'd now direct your attention back over to the grayscaled column, the 3% column. Your minimum, if you want to keep up with where that market probably is going to go, is to have a minimum salary in the $58,000, $59,000 range. But for tonight, I'm saying grade 11, which catches you up to the market. And when I get to my recommendations, the implementation cost of my recommendations, then you can see what it would cost if we just caught up, not if we went ahead and prepared ourselves to be where the market is going to be. So again, every one of your positions has a worksheet like this. I'm just using this one tonight to show you what the data looks like, how I use the data, and so forth. So pay plan recommendations. So on the left side is your current pay plan. It looks like for public safety, there was a carve out so that public safety would have their own pay plan. But as you can see, the carve out is just a mirror image of grades 9 through 24. So a lot of local governments do have separate pay plans for public safety. And the primary reason for that is, all of you know, over the last 5, 10 or so years, the competition and the market for public safety candidates and employees is very tight. And there was a lot of movement in beginning salaries for public safety employees. And a lot of local governments carved out and created a separate pay plan for public safety employees where they could be more reactive to the market and make changes in the public safety pay plan without having to make overall changes in the general pay plan. But your current pay plan, and this happens with a lot of pay plans, when you increase by 3% or you implement a COLA, rounding begins to cause some of the numbers to get offline. So your range is right at 52.9, but it's also 52.91, 52.92, and so forth. And the differential between grades is typically 5%, so each higher grade is 5% greater than the one below it. But you can see there that rounding has caused some of them to be 4.99 and 5.01. So my recommended plan basically is your current plan, just what's known as smooth. I'm reducing your range from the 52.9 to a recommended 50%, and then just a standard 5% differential from one grade to the other. But you can see I've renumbered and using a different numbering scheme. So police officer currently is in grade 11. My recommendation is that in the new plan would be 22. So the implementation recommendations would be, first of all, to adopt the recommended pay plan, and then, based on the market data, approve the assignment of each position to the pay grade that's supported by the market data. And again, using the police officer as the example, if you adopted a new pay plan, police officer would be assigned to grade 22. And then, for individual employee salaries, to adopt one of the following implementation options. The first one, use the same compa ratio. That's back to that slide that I said that I would refer back to, where you've got an excellent distribution of salaries. Option number one is to move the positions to the market-supported pay grade range, and then set employee salaries down on that new pay grade range in the same relative position that they hold in their current range. Basically, we're creating a mirror image of that second slide that we looked at. So if on the current pay grade range, my salary is 10% above minimum, I'm a police officer, my position gets moved to the new grade 22, my salary would be set down at 10% above the minimum of the new grade 22. So it's just picking employees up, bringing them over to the new scale, setting them down in the same relative position in the grade. But more importantly, what it's doing is maintaining the same relative position between each employee. The second implementation option is a comp ratio model. It goes back to my definition of an average workforce, 8 to 10 years. This is an option that looks at an employee's time. How long have they been working? And establishes a progressive value across the pay grade range until in their 8th year, their salary is at midpoint. And again, the midpoint or the market value is where you should be able to find the salary of an employee who's been in their position for that 8 to 10 year period. The bottom option is the middle option plus a 3% adjustment to salaries, whichever is greater. The 3% is based on most recent consumer price indexing information, based on my collection of data from other local governments about what kinds of cost of living adjustments are they going to make at the beginning of the next new fiscal year. So option number 3 is taking option number 2 and saying apply the salary that option number 2 would provide to an employee, or 3% cost of living adjustment, whichever is greater. And then obviously for tonight, I'm saying 3% because that's based on the most recent data that I've been able to collect. In your budget discussions, that could be whatever number that best fits your fiscal discussions. So, how much? If we use option number 1, and again, that's just the recreation of that second slide, placing employee salaries in their new pay grade ranges at the same relative position that they hold in the current range. The increase in salaries would be $859,000. The second line you see there is 27%, which represents the typical associated payroll costs, FICA, retirement, 401k, a total of almost $1.1 million. Option number 2, where employee salaries are placed along the pay grade range in relation to their length of employment, would be $312,000. Option number 3, which is option number 2 plus the 3%. So again, option number 3 would be an employee would get the adjustment from option number 2 or 3%, whichever was greater. So this option would be $495,000. So that very quickly was an overview of, again, about 6 months worth of work and discussions and more discussions. So I'm here for as long as you wish me to be to answer all the questions that you have.
Any questions, comments from the board?
In the future, we have reference to it. We'll be able to get contact them too as well if we have some questions in the future.
All right. Yes, absolutely. So what I can do, if that's okay with you, David, is to share your information. But it may be best to go through Bobby.
Okay.
So Bobby can organize that. Bobby is our finance director. But at the end of the day, we want to be able to come to you with one of these scenarios as part of the budget. I think, so this was done 4 years ago, 2020?
4.
Okay. And I don't think that was implemented. And that's again why we keep sliding back. And so business as usual it's not something we definitely want to do if we want to make Zebulon an employer of choice, and also have people wanting to come and work, not just work here, but stay with us. And so we want to make sure that whichever option, one of the questions that I've posed to David is, for each scenario, what's the impact on employees? How many employees does each scenario impact? And I think that's why we came up with that 3% at the end in terms of the scenario. So all of these scenarios are positive, in my opinion, but one is better than the other. But which one can our budget accommodate, especially in this coming fiscal year? So I'll make sure that I make that connection between you and David going through Bobby. And so if you have questions, you can direct them to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Old business, planning.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Today we'll be discussing the Zebulon Mixed-Use Plan Development Rezoning 2025-02. Now, it's important to note that this project was brought forth in front of the board at the April 14th joint public hearing, so a lot of the material that you will be hearing today will be very similar, if not almost identical. These are the standards that the board must remember when they are making a decision with regards to this plan development rezoning. Number one, does it meet the health, safety, and welfare of all residents and visitors of Zebulon? Number two, is this project appropriate for the location where it is at? Number three, is it reasonable within the public's interests? And number four, other relevant factors the board may deem as appropriate when making their decision. And it's also important to note that all plan development rezoning projects must be better than the strict interpretation of the Unified Development Ordinance Standards per UDO section 3.5.5. So a little bit about this property. The applicant is Ms. Beth Bailey with McKim & Creed. The property owners are Marfa and Lonnie Stansel. The property addresses are 1928 and 1938 Zebulon Road. This project site consists of 14.546 acres. It is currently zoned as heavy commercial HC and suburban residential R2. And the proposed zoning is a plan development or PD zoning district. Public hearing notification, public hearing signs were posted on all frontages of the site. Mail notices were sent to property owners within 750 feet of the site. Paper of the general circulation was sent out 2 times in the Wake Weekly. And this project was also posted on the Town of Zebulon's website. Currently, this property is zoned as heavy commercial, shown in dark red in the front, and suburban residential shown as light yellow in the rear of this property. And our future land use map has it zoned relatively similarly with general commercial in the light red in the front of the site, and suburban residential shown in the light yellow in the rear of this property. Timeline of activity. The first review was submitted to town staff on December 3rd of 2024. The comment letter was sent back to the applicant on January 6th, 2025. The technical review committee meeting was held on January 8th, 2025. The second review was submitted to town staff on February 13th, 2025. The comment letter was sent back to the applicant on March 5th, 2025. And the joint public hearing packet submittal was on March 18th, 2025. Concept plan, so this is what the overall site is going to look like. Nothing has changed since the April 14th joint public hearing. So this is just a general overview of what the site is proposing to look like. In the front of this project, there will be 3 outparcels, which will most likely be commercial uses within the 3 outparcels as you see shown on the PowerPoint slide. In the middle of this property, there will be 2 mixed-use buildings labeled as MU1, MU2. The developer is proposing the first floor to be retail and commercial uses, and then the floors above the first floor will be apartment units. And then the 4 buildings that are located in the rear of the property will be standalone apartment buildings, which means that there will be apartments only, so there will be no retail within these buildings. These will just be apartment units within these 4 buildings. Considerations, these are certain elements that town staff would like to bring forth and deemed as important to bring forward in front of the board at this meeting. The first slide here is permitted uses. The first is multifamily dwelling, second is upper story residential, and the third bullet point is commercial. They're proposing to have many different commercial uses, such as restaurant, retail sales, coffee shop, offices, so on and so forth. And it's important to note that all the permitted uses can be found in the plan development narrative, which was submitted in the packet that was handed out to all of you. On the northern portion of this site, there will be a pedestrian path, which will start on Zebulon Road. It will run along the northern portion of the site, and it will connect to the Beaver Creek Dam Trail, as shown on the northeastern side of this PowerPoint slide. And this would obviously promote walkability for residents, living on this site, but as well promote walkability for residents who live in the neighborhoods of Tarrant Meadows and Weaver's Pond to walk or ride their bicycles to the site from the neighborhoods that they live in. The image on the right shows the amenity of an outdoor event venue space, which is located between the 2 mixed-use buildings. And then the image on the right shows the other amenities, such as the outdoor grilling and dining area, a playground, and a pool for all of the residents who will be living on the site to enjoy. These are the road connections. The image on the left shows a connection stub to the property adjacent to the north, and the image on the right shows a connection stub to the property adjacent to the south. And this will promote future cross-connectivity for future development, for future projects that will be, on the sites to the north and south of this property. The perimeter buffers of the Zebulon mixed use, the image on the bottom left shows a 10-foot buffer, which will be a type A perimeter buffer that will abide by all of the type A perimeter buffer standards in the town's UDO. And the rest of the images show a 20-foot buffer, which will be a type B buffer, which will also abide by all of the type B perimeter buffers per the town's Unified Development Ordinance. This slide shows the streetscape buffer of Zebulon mixed use. This will be along the front of Zebulon Road, and it is proposed to be a 15-foot modified Type C streetscape buffer, which will also abide by the 15 modified Type C streetscape buffer standards in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Road improvements, the developer and town staff will work hand in hand in order for the developer to help with their part of the roadway improvement, which is a 4-lane median divided widening along Zebulon Road. They will help construct their half of the median lane, as well as the additional road lane, including curb, gutter, a 5-foot planting strip, and sidewalk. Building architecture. These images show what the architecture of the buildings might potentially look like. This is not exactly what they will look like, if this project is to move forward, but this is just a rough idea of what, the building architecture might look like. The image on the left shows what the apartment-only buildings might look like, and then the rest of the images show what the mixed-use buildings might potentially look like architecturally. The utility allocation policy is a requirement for all of these projects in order to connect to the public water system. Now, the chart here shows how the developer followed and completed the utility allocation policy requirements. The first little box here shows the mixed-use development greenfield, which allowed them to start off with 40 base points. And then the rest of the 5 points was received with providing at least 2 EV or electronic vehicle charging stations, 5 points for the walkable site design, 2 points for the pool, 3 points for an outdoor deck or patio space, 3 points for a bathroom and change room only clubhouse, and 2 points for an outdoor grill or kitchen area, which allocated to 60 points, which is the minimum required in order to complete the utility allocation policy. Once again, these are the standards that the board must remember when making a decision for all plan development rezoning projects. Number 1, does it meet the health, safety, and welfare of all residents in Zebulon? Number 2, is this project appropriate for the location? Number 3, is it reasonable within the public's interests? And number 4, all relevant factors the board may deem as important when making their decision. And all plan development rezoning projects must be better than the strict interpretation of the town's Unified Development Ordinance standards per UDO section 3.5.5. Staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning and adoption of Ordinance 2025-27 if the board finds that the standards of section 2.2.25.j are met. Now, during the planning board meeting during the April 14th meeting, there was one planning board member who was recused due to a conflict of interest for potential financial gain from this project. However, the rest of the 5 planning board members who were present unanimously recommended approval of PD 2025-02 for the rezoning of Zebulon mixed use, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25.j and section 3.5.5 have been met, and the request is consistent with the Zebulon's comprehensive land use plan. Okay.
Any questions? Questions, comments from the board? Commissioner Baxter?
You know what? No, I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments from the board? Thank you.
And the developer would like to have a presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. We were here just about 3 weeks ago on April 14th for the joint public hearing with the Planning Board. The presentation is largely the same. I won't run back through everything. Staff's done a great job presenting the project. We'll hit a couple of the highlights, and then I wanted to add that in addition to having our development team here this evening to answer any questions you have, we did propose at the request of this board at the last meeting 2 additional conditions that don't appear in the initial application packet. That was the inclusion of pollinator plants as part of the on-site plantings, and then a commitment to setting aside the greater of 5% or 13 residential units at reduced rental rates for workforce housing. So I did want to bring those back up. This is the list of the development team. We have several folks here this evening. If there are specific questions about traffic or engineering, site design, or the like, that's our primary goal this evening, is to answer any questions that may have come up between the joint public hearing and today. Spectrum Investment Solutions, as staff mentioned, is proposing to rezone the site from combination of heavy commercial and R2 to PD. This is the site plan. I'll remind the board that, kind of the purpose of this, consistent with the future land use plan for this site, is to have those commercial-only uses towards the front off Zebulon Road, and then transition towards the rear of the site through the mixed use, and then to the pure residential, and then the rear of the site is reserved for stormwater pond. That's also a little to the north is where you'll find that multi-use path that connects to the greenway, the amenity area, and then sidewalks throughout to provide connectivity, as well as future stub road connections in the event that the property to the north is developed. 250 total residential units, 25,000 roughly square feet of commercial space through a combination of those commercial out parcels to the front of the site, as well as the ground floor of those two mixed-use buildings at the center of the site. Several amenities, including that connection point to the greenway, the pool, outdoor eating and grilling area, and then sort of outdoor recreation, gathering / event space up towards the middle of the site. Landscaping and sidewalks throughout, and then road improvements, whether done directly by the developer or depending on staff's preference and discussions and timing as part of a fee in lieu to allow those improvements to be done all at once. This is, I think several members of the community were here last time. And, this is a new type of project for Zebulon. An exciting one, something that brings a kind of a product type to this market that isn't here today. It's an exciting project. It's something that our developers and our project team are excited about. I think the town is excited about. And like I said, certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have. These are representations. We're not far enough along into the design process to have actual renderings. There are several commitments in the conditions that were passed out with your packets to material requirements. Everything compliant with the UDO, but some specific additions in terms of a mix of materials that we use for the buildings. And these are some representations of what that may look like down the road. This is part of staff's presentation. This is the out parcels towards the front, and then the mixed-use buildings, the outdoor event venue. And then some additional kind of guideline principles and consistency with the town's published plans that we discussed at the last joint hearing. Happy to drill down on any of these or discuss them, but I also don't want to be repetitive with the presentation that you've already heard. And then the residential portion to the rear of the site. We have, at the last hearing, Robert Terry presented some really exciting anticipated economic development and economic impacts of this project. If the board would like a refresher on that or just additional detail on it, happy to go into it. Like I said, we don't want to put you back through the entire presentation just for the sake of hearing myself talk and do enough of that. But if there are questions, we have a really good development team here that can answer anything you may have. So thank you for your consideration, and we're available as needed.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board? Thank you.
Mayor, I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-27 for the rezoning of Zebulon mixed use, finding that it is consistent with the Grove Zebulon Comprehensive Land Use Plan and that the standards of section 2.2.25.j have been met as described in the prepared statement per the UDO 2.2.15.h.
We have a motion.
The second's easy. The second's so easy.
We have a motion. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I think it's just, this is a product that we don't have in the community, so I'm excited to see what it does.
Very excited about it.
Maybe a little bit.
Me too.
Look forward to it. Look forward to it.
Any further discussion? A roll vote. Commissioner
Davis? Favor.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Miles.
Favor.
Commissioner Baxter.
Favor.
Motion passes. Thank you. Manager report.
So you do have the financial statement. I don't know if you have any question on that. It just shows you a summary of our revenues and expenditures today. But
again, there's really nothing significant at this time of the year, 2 months more to close out the fiscal year, but we're in a good place. A really good place, I must say. Unless you have specific questions for Bobby, or Bobby has any addition to that.
Few additional transfers to report for this month. Just you'll see it's real short. From governing board, move 5,000 from retirement to travel and training, and in police, move 5,000 from recruitment to salaries overtime, and in parks and recreation, move 5,000 from team uniforms to grounds maintenance. That's all I had.
Any questions, comments from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
And then just an update. I think I mentioned the update on the budget earlier on, so I will not repeat myself. But with regards to staffing, it's no secret that we've got a few vacancies that we are trying to fill, either because of retirement or resignations. So we started kind of building on what the former administration started. We concluded some interviews today for Public Works Director, as well as Human Resources, and we're going to have additional interviews before the end of the week and also by next week. So when I came on board, I did ask Chief Perry and Ms. Teresa Piner to co-chair a panel of interviewers made up of their colleagues, rather than wait. So they've been working hard. I did charge them that by middle of May, I'd like to consider making offers to successful candidates. Maybe that's an ambitious goal, but I believe that we're close enough. We have had over 200 applicants for respective positions at the director level. And I think that hopefully by the time we have our May 14 work session, I will have some additional update for you on that. But interviews went forward today. We have a few candidates that we're going to be meeting up close, and then hopefully we can start making offers to candidates before the end of this month.
Awesome.
And of course, we have Ms. Markland agreed to join us in an interim capacity as town clerk. So hopefully we are able to also address that before the end of June. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Thank you. Board comments. Commissioner Miles?
No comments, sir.
Commissioner Harrison?
Thank you. I don't have any comments.
Commissioner Clark?
Other than we went to the North Carolina League of Municipalities last week, I found it very informative. Our Commissioner Shannon Baxter was appointed to President of the Women in Municipal Government. We all learned a lot from the various towns and everything that came. So it was quite informative. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Commissioner Baxter?
Just kidding.
No shade.
Commissioner Baxter?
I'd like to thank all of the staff members that really worked so hard for Spring Fest, and not only making sure that it was set up, but helping everyone quickly and safely tear everything down. That was
really awesome. So, yay, I look forward to the other things that we have going on coming up soon.
Just say it is Teacher Appreciation Week, so please appreciate all the teachers, all the staff, and what they do for our children. Give them some love. If you can stop by any of our schools this week, that would be awesome, because I know they teach 2 of mine, and that is work by itself. So, thank you. My kids are wonderful.
Thank you. I don't have any comments at this time. Next on the agenda is closed session. We need to go into closed session as allowed by GS 143-318.11 for the purpose of pending litigation with Deacon Development Group LLC versus the Town of Zebulon, and for personnel discussion. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second? Before we go into closed session, 5-minute recess.
Perfect.